Hi, we are recording today with Senator Jason Heitkamp. He is in town, so you wanted to grab him and talk a little bit about what are you doing in town. There's a protest going on, right?
There is a protest going on today. I believe it involves Sanford for sure, and there might be another hospital involved. But I saw that they were going to have this protest, and I wanted to come and just partake of it and see, what people had to say and how they're treated. And I hear there's going to be some other legislators in town, so that's a good thing. And we're spending the interim trying to, conduct the business of the people.
And what are they protesting?
They don't want to take the mandated gene therapy shots. I'll call it that. I don't call it a vaccine. It's a gene therapy in my view.
So if you are able to visit with people here, they aren't necessarily going to be people from your district. And you've gotten a little bit of pushback from that in the past. But if you wouldn't mind sharing what you had shared with me earlier, each representative represents the entire state.
Well, a lot of people don't realize, but we do take an oath to the United States Constitution. We take an oath to the North Dakota Constitution. We do represent the people in our district, but if we have people in other districts that feel they're not being represented by their legislators, then they can give us a call and we can help to put them to the right people in the future to talk to. I've helped many people by telling them what department they should maybe talk to, maybe giving a call to the department ahead of time so that they know exactly who to talk to and that the people are prepared. And it just takes less time. I've been doing customer service work my whole life, so I'm very comfortable with helping people.
I'm guessing, though, there's a bigger issue going on here where this is a mandate and you want to weigh in on it, just how people are being treated.
Well, I can tell you in my personal life now, I've just quit my job that I was doing this summer because I'm a truck driver, so I can go and work wherever I want to. But I am going back to a company I've worked for over 20 years. We normally work from August until June. And I'm very scared that when I get back there that a week in or 2 weeks in or whatever, they're going to say, yeah, we've decided that now you're going to have to get the mandated shot. And so why not hit this at the front instead of waiting for something to happen? Why not help the people who are having trouble now instead of waiting till I have trouble? I'm here to help the people, not just myself.
Up until now, have you had any trouble not getting the shot?
I did have a meeting the other day that I attended in Bismarck, and, I just said, I've never been in interim committee meetings before. I'm still a freshman, so I'm still learning everything. And so, I get some heat sometimes for, getting a hotel room and getting it paid for and things like that. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to wake up at 4:30. I'm going to get ready. I'm going to drive to Bismarck. And so I did that. I got there a little early, decided to go have some lunch in the cafeteria. Came back, there were no spots set up, no names on the tables, no nothing. So I put my stuff there. And when I came back, people were starting to fill in. There was going to be over 40 people in the room, So it was a pretty large meeting. I don't know if you've ever been to the Rough Rider room before. But so anyway, I was taking out my laptop and things like that and getting it ready. And I had one of the senators from the Democrat Party come over, Kathy Hogan. I know her because she used to be my neighbor when I lived in Prairie Rose, North Dakota. I used to be on the city council for Prairie Rose. So we would meet at somebody else's house every month, 21 homes. So you always got to somebody's house every 2 years, And so I knew Kathy. And so she came over and she said to me, there was an open spot on this side. There was an open spot on this side of me. And she came over and she said, did you get your shot? And I said, I'm a senator. We're part of this group, 47 of us. We're supposed to all get along. We're try to work together. And so why wouldn't I tell her? And so I said, I have not got my shot, and I'm not going to get my shot, just so you know. And she said, oh. She said she was going to sit in the seat next to me. Now, one thing I'll tell you also is she was the only person in the room that had a mask on that day. Now, I did not know of anybody having an emergency. I came in the west door. There was no sign on the west door. Went to the bathroom, no signs in there. Went to the cafeteria, no signs in there. No thought that there's any issues with masks or shots or anything. And so she said, oh, I was going to sit next to you in that chair. because it was going to be her and then Pam, I can't remember what Pam's name, she's a representative, but she's a Democrat also, Schneider, I believe it is. And no, Pam Anderson, I'm sorry, I think that's her. And then, and so they were going to sit there, and the next thing I know, she said, oh, well, I guess that's not going to work then. And I said, well, you know, there is a chair over here. I can move over, and then we'll have 6 feet of room and stuff like that. And she said, no, that's not good enough. So she went and she sat in a different spot, and I continued to take my stuff out. I did see she went over and talked to the chairman, Judy Lee, for a little bit. And all of a sudden, Judy stood up, you know, and I had an empty chair, a person from Legislative Council, and then it was Judy Lee. And she stood up, and she just said out loud, you know, if you haven't had your shot, Jason, you're not supposed to sit within 6 feet of anybody, and you're not supposed to talk to anybody the rest of the day.
Oh my gosh.
Well, how can you get anything done if you can't speak?
Well, I don't know, and see, I didn't know anything about this. I checked my emails before I came diligently. You know, I prepared for the meeting. I've never been in an interim meeting before, so I thought it was, you know.
And it was announced to the whole group. And you're
was,
not allowed to speak.
It was not on camera because the meeting hadn't started yet, and people were still kind of filing in. But you could tell that there was going to be over 40 people in the room. After this, I said to her, oh, okay, I didn't know. I said, I'm the chairman, and I set the rules in this committee. And I said, okay, well, I haven't seen any rules, so I don't know what rules I'm supposed to follow. And after that, you know, the room filled up, the meeting started. No one else was asked in the room if they had their shot. No one, you know, they didn't come out and say anything like, if you haven't had your shot, you can't sit within 6 feet of people and you can't talk to people the rest of the day. No one else in the room was talked to about it. And the weird part was, a couple weeks after this, I was talking to a person, and he's the father of one of the people in there. I don't want to say any names, because I don't want to get any, I don't want to out anybody that they haven't had their shot yet. But one of the people between Judy Lee and Kathy Hogan sat next to a person who was unvaccinated the whole day and didn't say one thing to that person. So it just reminded me of what I knew about the Luke Simons deal. Somebody comes over, they have a problem with you, how does it go from there? I don't know. So I sent an email immediately. Instead of listening at the meeting, I sent an email immediately to Ray Holmberg and to Senator Wardner, because Ray Holmberg picks out the chairmans for the committees, and Senator Wardner is the majority leader. And I told him exactly what happened, and that I was kind of dumbfounded by the whole thing. You know, you've seen the emails. I sent you every email. I sent one also to Bjornson from Legislative Council. And then he said, well, let's meet after this. So then we met after the meetings, and I talked to him. And he said, well, I think that you should send an email to Judy Lee and just tell her, you know, how you feel and things like that. And maybe you guys can get this resolved, you know. And so I sent her an email, and she has not responded from it.
How long ago did you send it?
This was the 3rd.
Oh, so
I
plenty of
sent the
time.
email.
Yes.
I sent the email on the 5th, and I also sent an email just this weekend to remind her that I had sent an email, and then she hadn't responded to it.
And
Well,
nothing came back.
Nothing.
That seems to say that she can't defend her behavior.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of waiting for our next meeting in the interim to find out, because I don't know what's going to happen now, because you know, now you have all this weirdness starting with the mask and the shots and things, and
But there's
maybe I
also
won't
a
even be
HIPAA
allowed.
piece.
Maybe I won't even be allowed in the building next time.
According to HIPAA, though, I mean, granted, that's been trampled on time and time again these
Yes.
days, but they used your name, announced to the whole room, right?
Yep.
Jason hasn't had his shot, so therefore you can't talk to people, you can't sit near anybody, and nobody else was asked. So you were, to me,
was
it seems like your
singled out.
privacy, singled out, and your
Yep.
privacy was invaded.
Yeah, and like I said, the meeting was just starting. People were still filing in, so whether they heard anything or didn't hear anything, I can't tell you, but it was very loud. And normally, if I would have an issue like that, I would probably either go over to the person or have them come over to me, instead of talking over the top of people who really don't need to hear the conversation in the first place, especially if you're not going to announce it to the rest of the room.
So what you did was the process that is normal for complaints of that type? I mean, by going to Bjornson, or
You
what
know-
is the process?
You know, like I said, I don't know what the process is. I immediately sent an email to, the majority leader and to Senator Holmberg. I immediately sent one to Bjornson from Legislative Council, and I looked for guidance after that. And that's what I do. I mean, I'm not there to, I'm this guy and I have power. I'm a guy who's still a freshman, and I'm looking for some guidance. And I check my emails. There was nothing on there saying, if you haven't had your shot, you need to stay 6 feet away from people or
Right.
anything like that.
And-
I wore a face shield my whole legislative session. I got COVID and pneumonia at the same time. I never missed a meeting when I had COVID and pneumonia. I did everything on Zoom. I didn't miss a vote. I'm a hard worker, and if I know the rules, I can get a lot done.
Go.
Senator Heitkamp, what is your next step going to be? Are you just going to let it go, or are you going to follow up on it in some
Well,
way?
my email, which Jan can affirm there, and I would show the emails to anybody that I sent. I'm demanding an apology for how I was treated, because for one thing, I feel like I got bushwhacked, and I feel I was singled out, especially to find out later that somebody that was sitting right next to these people wasn't vaccinated either. And they had no care about that. They didn't ask anybody. They didn't bring it up in the room. There were no signs up. There was nothing.
Well, and if you are treated this way on an issue that really has nothing to do with the legislature itself, then how are you going to be treated for the rest of the session?
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to bring out also is, I know that there's a lot of weirdness in the air about Bastiates and things like that, okay? I am not an official member of the Bastiat caucus, all right? And there's people who have tried to put me in on that. I can tell you, I ate a lot of pizza with people who were in the Bastiat caucus, But, I just said, I don't have, I'm not a part of the club. I'm not a part of anything. But I don't think they are getting any more members. It's just a bunch of people that we got together and had pizza with every week. And so, like I said, there are some, the weird part is, the first thing that came to mind with me was Luke Simons. Because for one thing, I don't know anything about it anyway, because I'm in the Senate, all right? But whether he did anything wrong or not, I would hate to be the person in the Senate that all of a sudden they just come one day and vote and Jason's out.
Well, I'm glad you're following up,
Yeah.
and I hope you do get an apology, and I'd like you to stay in touch with us
Yeah.
on that, because I think the way the world is going right now, we have to stand our ground, and we have to
Yeah.
expect respect
Yeah.
and not get pushed around like it sounds like you did.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should get the other side and see what they have to say for themselves.
Boy, I tell you what, I would really appreciate
Okay.
if you would, because I have sent emails and I have
Okay.
received nothing back.
Well, give me that email, and we're going to follow up on that, and maybe
Yeah.
this is a story to be continued. But thank you so much for coming in today, Jason.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Hope to see you at the protest later.
yeah, and stay in touch with us on this too.
I will.
All right. Well, thanks, and then back to the studio.